1930s, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt addressed the nation through a series of radio broadcasts known as the Fireside Chats. His aim was to reassure the common man that our society would recover from its troubled times. But we're far from 1930, and I deal with a different kind of fire. For a new era of worldly frustration, we offer a fresh conversation. I'm Greg Carlwood, and these are the Higher Side Chats.
Here we go, our side chatters, drinking that drink, smoking that smoke, and ready to extract my mind from the mainstream wavelength and tune into something a little stranger. From sunny San Diego, I'm Greg Carlwood, and today's show is another milestone for one of my many agendas with THC, and that would be to find new people with new ideas who have yet to grace your ears. And I think we can fly that mission accomplished banner high today, because while digging around in the depths of the internet looking for researchers who are shining their spotlight on this idea that Earth is a human energy farm for the entities that run it, I found Wayne Bush and his website trickedbythelight.com, and I'm very glad I did. Now, this idea itself is something we've heard before: prison planet, matrix of control, holographic reality, and many other conspiratorial buzzwords allude to such a thing. But I wanted to go deeper into what this idea means, how it could work, who might be behind it, and to what extent it could really be implemented. And I think our guest today definitely expanded this concept in my mind. Hopefully you'll agree. Since Wayne really has only done one interview before, I sent him my questions early to make him a little more comfortable. So if at times it feels a bit pre-prepared, that's because it is. But I'm thankful for the effort Wayne put into getting ready for it. And with that, let's dive in. We're going to be decoding and dissecting language, religions, Hollywood symbolism, music, culture, ancient rituals, the sun-moon matrix, the life-death cycle, and many other layers on the Conspiracy Onion. Boom.
Drink a little drink, my friend. Smoke a little smoke. 'Cause it looks like Mr. Carlwood is studying up the show. We're diving down the rabbit holes and trying to relax. I hope you're ready for the Higher Side Chats.
All right, people, throughout our examinations, we've seen a lot of impressive plays from the puppet masters of the Power Pyramid, and as we peel back the big conspiracy onion even more, with each layer we discover a new aspect of reality, society, or culture that just didn't come about naturally or randomly, but was actually carefully crafted by those shadowy overlords. And as we dissect these layers, media, religion, politics, music, the legal, medical, and economic systems, false flag events, even our own language and DNA itself, we realize it's all engineered to serve a purpose on this alien ant farm we call Earth. And with each new big reveal, one might be inclined to breathe a sigh of relief and think, wow, we finally got it figured out. But no, ladies and gentlemen, there's always one more thing. And today we're taking the idea of a true prison planet, a human energy farm, a man-made Archon-inspired overlay, if you will, to new heights, with the show that asks, in a life where everything from cradle to grave has been carefully crafted and controlled, is it possible the inevitable escape hatch we call death is also tightly controlled and manipulated by the hidden hand of the mystery masters? That is the premise behind the work of today's guest, who has laid it all out on his website, trickedbythelight.com. His name is Wayne Bush, and as a guy who doesn't give many interviews, I'm psyched he's taken the time to be here today. Wayne, my man, welcome to THC.
Well, thank you, Greg. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad you are here. I think your website and overreaching premise are both very interesting. You've been laying out a ton of information and examples and symbolism to suggest a pretty radical possibility of our reality that I really haven't heard anyone break down quite like you. So I guess we should just lay it out for the people. Your website is trickedbythelight.com. Tell us a little bit about what that means.
Well, before we begin, I'd like to say I don't pretend to know the truth for sure. I don't have any definitive proof, but I rely on the evidence. So please preface everything I say with I believe or I think. And also, I'm not a polished speaker. This is only my second interview. I'm a computer programmer by day. So I ask that you please bear with me. And I'm going to go mainly from notes so as not miss any important details.
Fair.
So, okay, let me go ahead and lay it out. Let me take about 15 minutes or so and summarize and give an overview of the website, and then we can delve deeper into more details on some of these topics.
Perfect.
The website's a response to the popular notion that there is a tunnel that one goes through when one dies to be with this loving light. It's a familiar meme now and is even used as a source for jokes in movies. I believe it's a trick and that our souls are lured to the light by alien beings on the moon and used as a source of energy for themselves and possibly the sun. The theory is concerned with how to win the game of life and escape the prison planet Earth, which is an illusionary matrix that we dream. The theory of the website Tricked by the Light is that souls on Earth live in a holographic prison and are being farmed as an energy source. At death, souls are lured to the light, the moon, by beautiful lights and sounds or by entities posing as loved ones in order for energy to be harvested. There's some kind of tower or technology on the moon which enables this. The souls' minds are scrambled and the souls are contained inside the moon for a period until they are transferred to the sun as a fuel or energy source. This most likely occurs during a total eclipse. Souls' memories are wiped clean, bleached, or dyed by the light and are recycled to be reincarnated or reincarcerated, as I like to call it, back to Earth as a food source that is farmed by entities which feed off our energy. So we get mooned and our SOL, shit out of luck or strictly out of luck. The soul has died or been bleached and is released and sent to Earth, or it is recycled and reincarnated, and where they feed off the negative emotions generated from our stressful lives as slaves imprisoned by our body cells and our chemical compounds. We are kept here by gravity. We're tricked, for it is a game, the game of life for the human race. There's a mystery to life. From the minute we're born as babies, we have an amnesia or complete ignorance as to where we came from and why we're here. I mean, something's clearly wrong. Contributing to this ignorance are secrecy and lies. If there's a God, then why does everything die, break down? We have diseases. Creatures eat each other just to survive. We got the whole problem of evil. We're mostly a composite of our thoughts, emotions, feelings, and our physical composition, so we can be influenced or controlled by these. Our thoughts are largely based on what we're taught growing up or our conditioning. There's a lot of brainwashing involved. So what we see and hear, that is, words comprise our language, and images or symbols that we see around us, and we're inundated by them constantly. I think art imitates life, and life in turn reflects the bigger true picture and may give us insight into why we are truly here and where we came from. You have language, logos, and the media also influences our conscious and subconscious minds and beliefs about the moon, the sun, and light. So that would include music, television, movies. Also, religion and politics can use our emotions against us and provoke us into flag waving and justifying the cause for holy wars. The devil's in the details, so we're going to look at each of these areas. We languish in our languid language because we are spellbound by the spelling of words which pronounce a life sentence with prison terms. In our language, we use curse words and cursive writing. English has Germanic origins, and it's likely that the English letters have their roots in the Germanic runes, which were used for magic and casting spells. The ancient magic books of Europe, which contained instructions to summon demons, were known as grimoires, the French word for grammar. A grimoire or spellbook is a derivative of the French word grammaire. Another language which is subconscious is corporate logos. Logos as symbols speak indirectly to the conscious mind, and their colors, shapes, images, and meanings can influence our thoughts without even being aware of it. And product names such as Sunkissed and Pine Sol and logos which include the sun, the moon, the stars, manipulate our emotions to associate the product with the symbol and vice versa. The moon can be seen in logos such as DreamWorks pictures where a boy is sitting on the moon with a fishing lure cast down into the waters below. A Miller High Life neon light shows a siren with a witch's hat sitting on the moon and holding up a golden beer like the goddess Columbia holds up her torch in the Columbia Pictures logo. The Miller High Life sign reads, "Fishing, reel in the high life." The moon eclipsing the sun is shown in the movie poster for The Ring with the tagline, "Before you die, you see the ring." And of course, it's depicting a total eclipse. And it's an uncanny coincidence that the moon's diameter is just about 400 times smaller than the sun's, yet it is 400 times closer to the Earth, so that it just about perfectly blocks out the sun during a solar eclipse. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And the backside or so-called dark side of the moon, which we can talk about later, is another eerie coincidence in that the moon just happens to rotate slow enough that the same side always faces Earth. Also, there have been structures seen on the moon, such as a tower and a shard. The sun has been connected to sacrifice since the dawn of time. The Aztec, Mayan, and pre-Incan priests would build pyramids of the sun, whose unfinished tops were altars where bloody ritual human sacrifice took place. Human hearts were ripped out of a victim's chest and offered up to the sun and then thrown into the sacrificial fire in order to keep the sun alive and moving along its journey. In return, the sun god would continue to sacrifice its life and energy so that man could live. In Christian theology, the Son of God, representing the Son of God, S-U-N, was sacrificed and gave his life for us so that we could have eternal life in return. And in return, we give our hearts to Jesus, the morning star, the light of the world who walks on water, or the Son of God. You have the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Order of the Solar Temple, United Order of the Golden Cross, Knights of the Golden Circle. Freemasons have their blazing star emblem and the letter G, which I believe is the sun, since the dictionary defines our sun as a G-class star and also defines Sol, S-O-L, as the letter G in the music scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. You have the Screenwriters Guild. So you have all these secret societies that seem to be associated with the sun, too.
Yeah, those are some interesting connections that I hadn't really made before, especially the G. That is a really great analysis of what the mystery behind that G could really be.
Yeah, I've never seen it anywhere else, and I don't know if it's 100%. I'm sure, Freemasons, maybe they have some other connotation to it, but it's right in the dictionary, folks. So, and they seem to revere the sun an awful lot.
Yeah.
In the music industry, we have seen the rampant increase of rappers and pop stars using what have been termed Illuminati symbols and gestures such as one-eye symbolism, 666 gestures, and making pyramids with their hands, as if they know something we don't know. And then perhaps they're just puppets of the Illuminati and just do what they're told, or perhaps they've sold their souls figuratively or literally for fame and fortune and are now in the know. Either way, the music award shows seem to be more and more steeped in onstage rituals and even involving blood in some cases. Some claim it's all just marketing and a ploy to get people talking about them, but at least in the classic rock genre, the lyrics can be very telling. I mean, when two of the biggest rock songs of all time, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven and the Eagles' Hotel California, both contain the same elements, it deserves a closer look. I mean, both songs contain a lost, confused traveler, a path or a road, a lady shining a light to show the way, heaven or hell, wind, a spirit, and a piper or voices calling. You have the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, or NATAS, which is Satan backwards, and it gives out the Emmy Awards, which is a gold angel holding up a golden globe, and you also have the Golden Globe Awards. Jordan Maxwell, he's a fantastic researcher. He said, quote, "Magic wands were always made out of the wood of holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. Hollywood is a druidic establishment, and the symbols, the words, the terms, the stories are designed." You have movies such as Ghost, Poltergeist, and TV shows such as Medium, Ghost Whisperer, and Crossing Over with Jonathan Edwards, and best-selling books as Embraced by the Light and Saved by the Light. They all sell the idea of going to the light at death. Daniel Brinkley is the premier lecturer on the near-death experience, and he admits in his first book that he was an assassin for the CIA. Well, I mean, what if promoting the white light was just his new assignment? Most messages we get in society favor the light, but there are a few lesser-known people who have perhaps boldly come out to warn about the light, such as ex-CIA-linked pilot John Lear and Val Valerian, a former U.S. Air Force NCO, who used a pseudonym and they have a supposedly Illuminati family member, Zeph Daniel, who was on Coast to Coast. In this pilot episode of the original Star Trek series and also in a Voyager episode named Coda, alien beings were depicted as invading the brains of humans, and in the Voyager episode, trying to deceptively coax the captain into its matrix of light in order to nourish it. These alien entities are what the Gnostic sect who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were suppressed by the church. They call them archons, and they look similar to the little gray aliens that have become popularized by the ufology community. Valerian says it's the little gray aliens who wait for us in the light trap in order to harvest and recycle us into another incarnation. I know that's a lot of heavy stuff to take in, but yeah. I believe the answers can be seen in the axioms that art imitates life and vice versa. versa. You have as above, so below, and supposedly God created us in His image. So concepts such as humor, entertainment, and games exist here, so they must also at the source. At least I kind of think they do. Now for the good news. The good news is life's a game, and games are fun and for our amusement. The human race is obsessed with games. You have the Olympic World Games, big ball games, big game hunters, virtual reality computer games, board games, game pods, game shows. The Game of Life is one of the best-selling board games of all time. The Sims is a video game in which you create your own people to put in your simulated world of SimCity, and it won Game of the Year. Like the concept of reincarnation, we often give the characters new lives as they advance from level to level in attributes such as health and karma. Even today, we now have virtual reality technology, and video game graphics are becoming more lifelike with each version released. Pretty soon, the graphics will become indistinguishable from real life. Scientists keep finding smaller and smaller particles as they zoom in on the resolution of the world we live in, only to be hindered by Planck's constant. Quantum scientists have discovered that particles only behave as particles when they are observed and function as waves when not observed, as if the function in the machine code is only called upon when needed. It's very likely that our world is a computer-simulated reality. Parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y, is a computer term used as a checksum digit to check for an error. The inside joke is that this is all just a parody, P-A-R-O-D-Y, or mocked-up simulation of a real situation. Technology keeps advancing along according to Moore's law. More and more movies and TV shows are depicting simulated worlds experienced from a pod. Blockbusters such as the highest grossing movie of all time, Avatar, Alien, The Matrix, Stargate, The 13th Floor, Existence, Surrogates, and The Island. In the beginning, mainframe computers used to fill an entire room. Then in the 80s, Apple and IBM developed desktop computers, soon to be followed by laptops. We now routinely surf the web using handheld devices, and corporations such as Google are currently working on devices that will be embedded into glasses or clothing. Extrapolating this trend, it's only a matter of time until we merge with machine. Yeah. Some pets and people already have biochip technology implanted. Leading scientists such as transhumanist Ray Kurzweil discuss the coming event called the singularity, and quantum physicists also discuss ideas such as a holographic or fractal universe and a universe with 12 or more dimensions. So if we're that close to creating simulated worlds ourselves, well, what's the probability that we're already living in a simulated world or subworlds? With the invention of computers, the internet, and the cybernetic human plus goals of transhumanists, it seems as though we're headed toward being yet further trapped down another level or layer within the labyrinth. We Game Boys live in a Dreamcast from Game Pods and a PlayStation. You have reality TV shows, but it's all likely just a dream. You have Olympic dreams, the American dream, the dream girl, your dream car, dream machine. We're living the dream. You have DreamWorks Pictures, Sega Dreamcast. We dream every night when we go to sleep. Why are we programmed to sleep? It's very strange when you think about it. It seems to be to recharge the body's battery, but we know so very little about it. For all we know, we are upgraded nightly with the latest download or software release from the universal computer. We experience life and interpret signals with our brain in various states of consciousness, which psychologists classify as alpha, beta, theta, and delta waves. So it's very possible that this life we think we're living is just another dream from which we'll wake from. The ancient Maya, in fact, believed that the world is an illusion, and the Aborigines believe that this is what they call dream time, and that there exists a more real world where we truly reside. Christopher Nolan, who's the film director for the movie Inception, explained, quote, regardless of the fact the story deals with different dream states, it's crucial that at every level the world feels concrete, because when we are in a dream, we accept it as reality. And in the movie, the character Cobb reveals, quote, dreams feel real while we're in them. It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. His best friend in the film was played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who said, quote, I consider myself a creative person, and dreams are where we're all artists. Everything you do in a dream, everything you see, everything you hear, everyone you talk to is your own creation. That's evidence of how powerful the creative mind could be if we were to let it. The game is that it's all just a dream, an illusion, if you will. Most of us live our lives sleepwalking in a dream state like zombies. I mean, how do we know we're not dreaming right now? Earth is a farm system where everything breaks down and dies, and where the creatures are forced to eat and feed off each other just to survive in the food chain. Life on Earth is a dog-eat-dog world where survival of the fittest rules. There's predator-prey relationships and also parasitic ones where leeches feed off their hosts. There are both beneficial and unfriendly bacteria and viruses in our body cells which fight each other. Humanity has been likened to a virus on the Earth. There are also symbiotic relationships where systems feed off each other. Like the 2012 movie, We Are Living in the Hunger Games. We all love the big game. As humans, we like to believe we are at the top of the food chain. But like the sheep whose unaware it is to be sheared, or the cattle who are oblivious to their slaughter by the farmer until the very end, we could similarly be clueless to invisible entities who might feed off our energy and capture our souls when we die.
Damn.
Human beings were placed on this planet in the Garden of Eden. Are we people or a people? Peas are beans and do grow on a pea pole in pods. It's very interesting that so many of the latest sci-fi programs depict humans in pods living the simulated life. And of course, there are game pods, iPods, and podcasts like this one. As kids, we are said to be raised much like crops are. Semen is often referred to as seed, and if someone is our ancestor, they are said to be from our seed. Why are we called a human? According to the Dictionary of Ancient Deities, Hu, H-U, was an Egyptian stellar god. Stellar god, quote, of god of sense of taste and also the divine food on which gods and mortals feed. And he appears at the creation in the boat of the sun. Later, he appears at the judgment of the dead, end quote. I wonder what was on his menu. Every time a new fetus is created, do they say, feed us? It's all dream theater for the eater. So we were placed on this plant Earth in a secret garden by a constant gardener. Of course, we're all familiar with the Grim Reaper, who is said to come to harvest your soul at death. As human beings, we consist of a very small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum of frequencies. There are colors and light we cannot see with the naked eye, such as infrared or ultraviolet. Dogs can hear sounds outside our range. Cats can see visions outside our range. Even the most sensitive instruments of science can only measure a very small portion. And so I think these entities feed off of our auric field from an overtone away from our wavelength. The theme of entities feeding off our energy for life force is pretty prevalent even in today's society. Vampire movies are more popular than ever, with the Twilight trilogy being the most recent example. The living dead are also quite a phenomenon, as people love to joke about the coming zombie apocalypse. Most religions believe in demons which can possess a soul. Catholic priests even perform exorcisms in more severe cases. Shaman are known to extract these attachments, or intrusions as they're called. I think Carlos Castaneda mentions demonic possession at length in his book, The Active Side of Infinity. And in her book, The Unquiet Dead, a psychologist treats spirit possession. Dr. Edith Fiore, a hypnotherapist, wrote about many of her clients having spirit attachments. So, I don't know, that's kind of an overview of everything.
Damn, man. Yeah, that is a lot of information, a lot of super interesting stuff. From the G right on down to, I really am interested by the idea that these beings could feed off our energy from just an overtone away from our wavelength. They're just outside of the electromagnetic spectrum that we see, and we're just completely
unaware.
Like the way goldfish in an aquarium don't realize that they're in a fishbowl inside of a house. We could just be living in their world like idiots.
Yeah, there's so much we don't know.
It's crazy, man. I love this idea, but I do want to know where you came to such a radical conclusion. I mean, can you walk us through the trajectory of your research a little bit and how you got to something this deep and off the radar of so many other researchers?
Sure. It was very gradual. I mean, when I was a little boy, I started out as a Catholic, and my parents would send me to catechism like once a month. I mean, it was just very casual. And so I got a background on Christianity. And then, as a kid, I'm interested in what most kids were interested in, sports and music and stuff like that, And then when I got to college, I went to UT, University of Texas, and you're putting in all these hours, you got 4 or 5 classes a day, and then I'm holding a part-time job where I'm working like 30 hours a week and got these labs to do. And there was a time when I wasn't getting any sleep. Like I'd not sleep for literally 2 days in a row, or I'd get 2 hours of sleep. You start to question what's this all about? This is crazy. And so at that time I did a little research and I thought, well, there must be a God because there's, some kind of design here. So I looked at the different religions and I settled in on Christianity. Being from America, most of us are. If I would have been born in Iran or somewhere, who knows? I would have been Islamic or something. But
exactly.
And then I met some other people in my life who started telling me about UFOs. And at first I was kind of like, it's probably not true. They're demons or whatever. But the more you look into these subjects, the more you realize there's more to it. And I started getting more into the New Age community, I guess you'd call it, where I started reading about near-death experiences and the light, and reincarnation really appealed to me because it kind of explained the idea of the riddle of inequality that we have here. It's like, why is it fair for somebody to be some piano virtuoso when, I have to hunt and peck to find the keys? And to me, reincarnation explained it. It's like, okay, in the previous lifetimes, they put a lot of hard work into playing the piano, and now it comes naturally to them, So I'm like, okay, that makes some sense. But it never really quite explained the idea of, karma, and like, if we're being punished for something, all the bad things are because of things we did that we weren't supposed to. How do you learn from that if you don't realize at the time what you're being rewarded for or why, So
good point.
There's a lot of questions. And then I started reaching a point, I read a lot of books by, David Icke and Zachariah Sitchin, Jordan Maxwell. I learned a lot from him. And so I just started reading everything I could get my hands on. And I got to this point where there was like a wall out there where, if I wanted to find out more answers, I had to do my own research and do my own thinking, and so that's kind of where I started looking at. I mean, some of the ideas about the light being a trick. I know John Lear was on Art Bell's Coast to Coast show, and he said the light was a trick. And, he's ex-CIA, I believe. And so, I did get some ideas from other people, but a lot of this at some point, like 15 years ago, I just started doing my own research on language and everything. So.
Right on, man. Yeah. Clearly, you're very good on that wordplay and decoding the language of it, which I always think is fun. But, man, this is a pretty all-encompassing, epic possibility that entities could be feeding off us, which, of course, we hear about, but that this whole game could be about that moment of death and convincing us to go towards the light in some type of massive recycling factory for human souls and human energy that involves the sun and moon. That is pretty crazy. I mean, we've all heard like you said earlier, the go towards the light meme. And I guess, would this be the underlying idea to drive into the subconscious of people while they're here for this game to work?
Well, yeah. I mean, at death, we lose our physical shell, and we're in an astral body, so we're more driven by thought, and our movements could be more or less on autopilot. I mean, we don't know until we've died. It's kind of an uncharted territory, right? So the most we can get from is by people who write books about out-of-body experiences or near-death. And I've gotten some emails from people that have had some experiences with the light and whatnot. But, there seems to be a subconscious programming, and it's associated with many product names like Sunkist, Pine Sol, and logos. The smiling happy face that says "Have a nice day." It's it's a yellow sun. Yeah. You have a lot of phrases like "see the light" or "see the light at the end of the tunnel." When you're at one with God, you're enlightened. When we get too serious, we tell each other to lighten up. Or if we want to bring a little levity to a situation, we might tell a joke to make light of the situation. If we get too stressed out, we might light up. This is a cigarette. We sometimes take a vacation in the sun at a place where we can have fun in the sun. After all, we're looking for a place in the sun. In fact, one of the definitions in the dictionary gives for soul, our sun, is alchemical gold, which is a gold metal. Consider these golden carats. They're all representative of the sun. You got gold is the most valuable precious metal on earth. And at a very early age, children receive gold stars at the top of their paper in school if they do well. Yeah. The sun, of course, is a gold star. Angels wear gold halos. A halo is a gold ring. Kings wear gold crowns, and the sun wears a gold crown of thorns or a corona. The streets of heaven are paved with gold. You're told to follow the yellow brick road to get to the land of Oz, which is a spiraling path that leads somewhere over the rainbow. The Holy Grail, the most sought-after relic in human history, is a golden cup. In alchemy, the gold, both physically and spiritually, is to turn base metals into gold. And Neil Young sings, "I've been a miner for a heart of gold." Athletes go for the gold, that is, compete for gold medals at the Olympics. If you win a tournament, you win a gold cup as a trophy. If a musician sells many copies of an album, they receive a gold record. In baseball, the best fielder in the league receives a golden glove. The Oscar, the Emmy, and the Golden Globe are all gold statues awarded to the best actors and actresses who are members of an Actors Guild, a term associated with gold, and a variation of which guild, G-I-L-D, means to deceive. On the happiest day of your life, you put on a gold wedding ring, which is also symbolic of Saturn, which we can talk about later if you want. But you have the golden rule, which in actuality is he who has the gold rules, but should be stay away from the sun. Esoteric societies speak about the golden mean ratio. You have the golden arches of McDonald's and the Golden Gate Bridge. In fairy tales, you have King Midas who turned everything into gold. Something's as good as gold. Silence is golden. When you're retired, you're in your golden years. So we just have a lot of positive associations. You even have a light beer. When you drink, they have light beer, like your B-E-E-R, like you're going to be light. You're going to be a light beer. So I'd like to talk a little bit about religion right now, if I could, because probably over 90% of the globe subscribes to one major religion or another, and I think it's a major stumbling block. For people that don't want to believe this, a lot of they kind of cling to religion. So Napoleon is the emperor of France, and he said, "Religion is what keeps the poor man from murdering the rich." Karl Marx said religion's the opiate of the masses. And I started researching the different religions, and I went on Google and Wikipedia and whatnot, and I started looking through them one by one, the major ones, and I looked at Hinduism and the teachings of Hindu. What I guess my conclusion was all major religions were given to us by princes from the elite royal families. So, you look at Hinduism, the teachings of Hinduism are largely based upon Lord Krishna, who was a prince. He was the eighth son born to the Princess Devaki. I may mangle all these words, but I'll try. The teachings of Hinduism are largely based upon Lord Krishna, who was a prince. He was the eighth son born to the Princess Devaki. Krishna married Rukmini, the Vidarbha princess. In the epic holy writing, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna convinces the hero Arjuna that on the battlefield, while fighting the war against his own family with full dedication is just. Buddhism was given to us by Gautama Buddha, who was born in a royal Hindu family. According to the most traditional biography, the Buddha's father was King Suddhodana. His mother, Queen Mahamaya, and Suddhodana's wife was a Kaliyan princess. Siddhartha is then said to have spent 29 years as a prince and had 3 palaces. He taught that suffering was part of life and that one should suppress desires. He outlined what is the right way to think and behave. And Judaism was given to us by Moses, their most important prophet, via the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the Torah. According to Exodus 2, Moses was conveniently said to have been found in a reed basket in the Nile River by the princess daughter of the Pharaoh and adopted by the Egyptian royal family and raised in the court of Pharaoh. So Moses was treated as an Egyptian prince. And DreamWorks Pictures even made a famous animated movie based on this, named The Prince of Egypt, starring Val Kilmer as Moses. In Christianity, Jesus was in the line of King David and was called King of the Jews and the King of Kings, and was the source for the controversial books Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which later was made the Da Vinci Code. We can also see how much power the royal family had in the creation of Christianity, and the very fact that Emperor Constantine, a bloody murderer, officially made it the state religion. Also, King James commissioned the translation of the King James Bible. There are even 2 books in the Old Testament named Kings and Kings 2. And you've got, King Solomon. There's lots of kings in there. So as you see, Christianity in the Bible was very much rooted in politics. In fact, councils are held to decide which books to include and exclude from the Bible. In Islam, Muhammad, who's the founder, was the son of the most noble family in Arabia of Banu Hashim and married a wealthy businesswoman from a very prominent family of an elite tribe named Khadijah, who was given the title Amarat. I don't know how to pronounce these words. Quraysh, Princess of Quraysh. And the royal family of Jordan and the Moroccan royal families claim descent from Muhammad. The Hashemite royal family of Jordan are direct descendants of the Prophet through his daughter Fatima and her husband, Ali bin Abi Talib. From the United Press International, October 10, 1986 article entitled Muslims in Buckingham Palace, they said, quote, mixed in with Queen Elizabeth's blue blood is the blood of the Muslim prophet Muhammad, according to Burke's Peerage, the genealogical guide to royalty. Brooks Baker said the British royal family is descended from Muhammad through the Arab kings of Seville who once ruled Spain. By marriage, their blood passed to the European kings of Portugal and Castile, and through them to English 15th century King Edward IV, end quote. So I think I made a major discovery regarding the royal families. I found out what the T in royalty stands for. Turds, because they've perpetrated a royal scam. They've been a royal pain in the ass, and we're getting royally screwed. You got the king and queens on the deck of playing cards, and what they really need is a royal flush right down the drain. That's a noble cause, noble. And so you have all these sons of gods that are depicted with golden halos, and so I think all these messages are, given to us by the royal families. These messages are to pacify and control the masses. I mean, the elite wish to keep all the gold and power they have, so they teach us to turn the other cheek and that the meek shall inherit the earth, and they use fear to threaten us with an eternal hell if we don't behave, and then they promise us a heaven or better life after we die as a reward for our good behavior. Right. So, reincarnation or reincarceration and the wheel of rebirth are being recycled. Like I said, you don't remember your lessons. You don't know what you're being punished or rewarded for. So the whole system, at least to me, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. The researcher Jordan Maxwell, if anybody's seen the movie Zeitgeist, a lot of that material was, I think, based on what his research was. But he said, quote, on December 22nd, the sun going south reaches its lowest point in the sky, our winter solstice. At that lowest point, the sun stops moving on the sundial for 3 days, December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, in the southern constellation known as the Southern Cross. Hence, our Savior, dead for 3 days, died on the cross, the Southern Cross constellation, that is. This is the only time in the year that the sun actually stops its movement, it looks like it stops its movement in our sky. On the morning of December 25th, the sun begins its annual journey back to us in the northern hemisphere, bringing, of course, our spring. Therefore, on December 25th, our sun is born again, and to this day, his worshipers still celebrate his birthday. End quote.
Man, you're great. I've never really heard anyone break down all the religions as tools of royalty before and make that connection that all these prophets...
I hadn't either.
Yeah, they come from royalty. You did a great job with that. I think that's definitely something to take note of. I've never been a fan of religion, so to me it fuels that fire even more.
People, I've mentioned this to people like my family and whatnot, and it doesn't seem to sway them. And people, they seem to want to cling to like a safety blanket, if you will. And I don't know, it doesn't seem to deter them in any way. But to me, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly abused by people in charge. So when you look through each religion and see that they come from royalty, I think that there should be some skepticism there instead of just shoveling it all into our brain, however they give it to us. But you make a lot of great points and bring up a lot of coincidences that, of course, there might not be any coincidences, but a lot of things that connect in this realm. But how do we know that these are indications of a larger scheme and not just one of a lot of popular cliches?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if they control a lot of this, and you have actors out there, and they popularize a lot of phrases. A lot of these cliches, are come from sitcoms or whatever, and the people watch them and go, "Oh, I like that," and so they all start repeating it like parrots. So there is that. But we have to look at all the data points, and with cliches, we're dealing with language, and I'd like to talk a little bit about language and break it down. Sure. Like I said, we languish in our languid language, and with spelling, we spell words to create a sentence. With jail terms, and it's a life sentence. The word sisters, W-Y-R-D, the sisters in Greek mythology were three fates or witches who controlled the fates of man. In our language, we use curse words and cursive writing. A rite isn't a ritual or magical rite. We cuss and discuss. Words have meaning and mean things, especially crosswords. They can be used to make a point. We use a converse to converse in order to keep us off course in our discourse because of phrase. We use catchwords. A story is a spiel or a spell. So words are created to create a sentence of terms. Your books contain chapters, which are secret societies or religious orders like the Knights Templar. A chapter contains many pages. A page is an understudy and in a service to the queen and king, as in pages and squires. A knight who's well versed in magic and is more or less a soldier or trained assassin. To page someone is to summons them. Pages are bound together and summon demons. After all, a page does contain many sentences. A jail sentence is served in a prison ward. And indeed, a sentence is created by words that are spelled out by using letters. A letter is someone who allows something to happen or someone who does something for someone else, like a blood letter. Homophones, where two words have the same sound but different meanings, allow for lots of room for deception, mixed messages, and messages speaking to the subconscious mind, which scrambles to make sense of a sentence using context with double meanings and double speak. Think about the words know, K-N-O-W, and N and know, N-O. Knowledge is considered a very positive word, yet it's linked phonetically with the most negative word in our language. So when you say, I know this to be true, are you partially negating its reality? English can be traced back to the Germanic and Angles tribes of the Anglo-Saxon notoriety. Angles and angels is our connection there. The runes, you can recognize letters in the English alphabet have origins in Germanic runes, which were used to cast spells. The sound or phonetic value of the rune is its vibratory quality in the air and space. Each rune has a certain sound to it to be chanted or sung, and this is a magical, creative quality that is inherent in speech. So you can ruin a language with rune magic. The runes can be used to affect the world outside based on the archetypes they represent. There's a science called cymatics, which Hans Jenny studied how frequency and oscillation affects the very structure of matter. So all this energy travels in waves, and Jenny studied how the vibrational energy of sound waves, such as the human voice or music, create an interference that forms geometric patterns on a vibrating membrane like a steel plate with media such as sand or glycerin. He found increasing the frequency made more complex forms like mandalas, snowflakes like sacred geometry patterns. And listeners might be familiar with blowing a smoke ring by making lips into the shape of an O. It's kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
And then you have, synonyms and anagrams like live and evil, live or evil. Homophones, like I mentioned, no and no. Also consider the mind's ability to combine words and sounds. When someone sneezes, you feel customarily obligated to say, bless you. But if you sound out the syllables, does your subconscious mind also make the connection to the phrase, be less you? So the very act of blessing someone can also be subconsciously telling them to be less. This is spell casting. Be careful the next time someone sneezes and they say, be less you. I don't want to be less. How about you? I want to be more. Yeah. Shouldn't they really say be more you? Or someone tells you to have a nice day. Have a nice day. Why don't they tell me to double a nice day or triple my nice day? People are always telling you to be safe. Isn't a safe where you put something in a box and lock it up? Do they want to put you in a box and lock you up? Like I said, all the major religions were given to us by princes of the royal families, and you have world leaders and secret societies, presidents that are in skull and bones and attend the Bohemian Grove, which features the cremation of carriage ceremony. And you have to look at the context or the content of the ceremonies conducted by the world leaders at the World Olympic Games, which perpetuates ancient Greek mythology of the gods of Mount Olympus. And even today, still feature a cauldron. It's their official name for it. And the Olympic torch was lit from the rays of the sun by Vestal virgins. So, you have to look at everything, I guess, all together.
Yeah, you have given us so many details already. And I guess, if we're talking about, to bring this back to the overreaching idea that our souls are harvested at the time of death to be processed possibly through the sun from a control center on the moon, if this was the whole game of life, it would make sense that there'd be a multi-pronged campaign from the elite to support this agenda. Does that seem to be the case?
I think so. I mean, I mentioned religion already, but it's also prevalent in government. I mean, look at government. The word government is to govern means to control, to rule or control, and ment, M-E-N-T, is mental. It's mentality. It's the mind. So the very word government means mind control. And actually, one of my readers sent that in to me, and I thought that was just gold. But anyway, business, you got a product logos such as light beer and all that stuff. The music industry, the movies that Hollywood produces, it's just all pervasive in every aspect of our lives, I think.
It is, man. Let's actually talk about the Hollywood aspect a little bit. As you mentioned earlier in the beginning, on your site, you do show that the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences is Satan backwards, and I really don't like to get stuck in that Christian Satanist viewpoint, but of course you don't either. We've just dissected all the religious nonsense, but I mean, it is a bit interesting, and it's a very awkward name for that group when you think about it. The National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. I mean, it seems so clunky that I can't help but think they really wanted something that spelled Satan backwards.
Well, it's just what are the probability of that? I mean, the odds of it being coincidental. It isn't. It had to be by design.
Right. What does TV have to do with science?
You got me. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, especially when Satan's the very personification of evil and is the adversary of God. And one of Jordan Maxwell quotes is, I mentioned earlier about the magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree, and it's made out of Hollywood. And Hollywood's a Druid establishment. You know, they're the symbols, the words, the terms, the stories are all designed. Also, Kenneth Anger, who directed the movie Lucifer Rising, said making movies is casting spells.
So you also show us Columbia Pictures and that the Oscar statue is a representation of Osiris, but what is the significance of these things, really?
I think it shows that the elite are steeped in the study and practice of ancient religions and mythology, and also in occult symbolism. And Columbia was a goddess and very prevalent across the world. You have the country named Columbia. You have the capital of America named District of Columbia. The United States was originally named Columbia. You have CBS, which is a Columbia broadcasting system. You have Columbia Pictures, Columbia Records. Columbia is represented as a goddess standing on a stepped pyramid and holding a torch above her head. Her image on the Columbia Pictures logo looks identical to the Statue of Liberty holding up the torch of enlightenment, which was modeled after the Colossus of Rhodes. Was a statue of the Greek Titan sun god, and the dedication text is preserved in libraries and is believed to have read, "To you, O sun, the people of Dorian Rhodes set up this bronze statue reaching to Olympus." And Ezra Lazarus's famous poem, "The New Colossus," is engraved on the pedestal on which the statue stands and concludes with, "I lift my lamp beside the golden door." I think it is representative of maybe Lucifer, the light bearer, who was patterned after Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. And of course, this is also the symbolism we see at the World Olympic Games. The London 2012 Olympic Games opening ceremony media guide on page 36 said, "The first torchbearer was Prometheus, who stole fire from Mount Olympus and gave it as a gift to mankind." And so in my Oxford Dictionary of English Etymology says, as of the name of a friction match to produce instantaneous light, Lucifer succeeded to Prometheus, which are both recorded in 1831. And the new shorter Oxford English Dictionary said, quote, "Lucifer, the morning star of the planet Venus when in the sky before sunrise, Satan, the devil." You know, and similar to the all-seeing eye at the top of the pyramid, which can be seen on the back of the dollar bill. I'm not exactly sure what these symbols represent, to be honest, but in Freemasonry, which claims many world leaders, Egyptian mythology is at the heart of it. And it's a secret society in the sense that you have to become a member of it to learn the secrets, and you have to ascend to the highest levels of the 33rd degree to learn the truth. I think the very nature of secrecy is not healthy in knowledge, and knowledge should be shared freely.
I agree with that, man. And you've obviously broken down so many connections already. One huge aspect of this is subliminal messaging. I mean, that's what kind of the coded language is. But you have so many examples on your site of seeing this subliminal messaging through the art of movie posters, which I think is pretty fascinating. I've grown up a movie buff myself. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the elite use symbols that speak on the subconscious level, and DreamWorks Pictures logo and the intro shows a boy in the moon with a fishing lure dangling into the waters below, and presumably of Earth. And water is symbolic of the subconscious mind. But yeah, the movie posters, you have lots of movie posters that feature a tunnel and light, such as Gamer, Moon, Prometheus, Death Tunnel, Lord of Illusions, Hypnotist, Surrogates, and Moonraker. You also have the poster for the movie The Ring, which has the tagline, "Before you die, you see the ring," and depicts a solar eclipse. Movies and television programs use what's called predictive programming to program us by using fiction and the power of suggestion to create a desired outcome. I'd really like to mention a couple of the Star Trek television episodes, if I could, because they really, I want to make sure I don't forget and leave anything out, and they're pretty big. Yeah. The Star Trek, the original series, 2-part episode, The Menagerie, was reworked from the show's actual 1965 pilot episode named The Cage, and The Menagerie was aired in November of '66, and it featured a group of small telepathic aliens, very reminiscent of the little gray aliens that dominate today's commercial market, and they hold Captain Pike a prisoner. And the Star Trek series, of course, went on to be a huge success. But in a rare interview on the paranormal radio show Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell interviewed Leonard Nimoy, who played the alien character Spock, of course. And Leonard Nimoy told him, quote, "When we were making the Star Trek series the first season, middle of the first season, some people came to me and they said, 'You may not know it, but you've been chosen as a kind of a vessel to carry information to the civilization to help and prepare this society for the coming of another civilization for alien arrival. And your character is a character designed to educate this public that there's nothing to fear, that it is possible to interact with other species.'" And I said, okay, it's okay to me, with me if that's the case. So you have these inorganic alien beings depicted in the pilot show, and they're actually mentioned in the ancient Nag Hammadi Gnostic texts and referred to as archons, which are mind parasites. And the archons are cons. And researcher John Lash has written extensively about them. But this pilot featured bulbous-headed little aliens in silver metallic costumes similar to the little gray aliens who could communicate telepathically and invade the thoughts of the crew. And Spock said they were an illusion placed in our minds by this planet's inhabitants. And his character Boyce said, "It was a perfect illusion. They had us seeing just what we wanted to see. Human beings who'd survived with dignity and bravery, everything entirely logical, right down to the building of the camp, the tattered clothing, everything. Now let's be sure we understand the danger of this. The inhabitants of this planet can read our minds. They can create illusions out of a person's own thoughts, memories, and experiences, even out of a person's own desires. Illusions just as real and solid as this tabletop, and just as impossible to ignore. You're better than a theater to them. They create the illusion for you. They watch you react, feel your emotions. They have a whole collection of species, descendants of life brought back long ago from all over this part of the galaxy." And Captain Kirk says, "You keep talking about life, Mr. Spock, a chance for life. How? As a prisoner, caged, a zoo specimen, living the illusions that amuse his keepers?" And then you have this other episode that was in Star Trek Voyager and was named Coda, and an alien invaded Captain Janeway's cerebral cortex and tried to convince her that she was dead and to come with him into his matrix of light, but she refused to go with him. And the alien says, "This is what my species does. At the moment just before death, one of us comes down to help you understand what's happening, to make the crossing over an occasion of joy." And Janeway replies, and what is that? He says, "It's our matrix where your consciousness will live. I was being truthful when I said it was a place of wonder. It can be whatever you want it to be. Then why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Why pretend to be my father?" The alien says, "Usually people are comforted to see their loved ones. It makes the crossing over a much less fearful occasion. I've done this many times, but I've never encountered someone so resistant." And she says, "You're more like a vulture, preying on people at the moment of their death when they're at their most vulnerable." He says, "I've waited for you. I've been patient. But your patience is wearing thin. What's the real reason you want me to in that matrix? Somehow I don't think it has anything to do with everlasting joy." The alien says, "You must come with me, or you must go with me." She says, "If you could force me to go, you'd have done it already. You need me to agree, don't you? I have to go voluntarily." He says, "Wouldn't that be better than standing here in this endless debate?" She said, "Let me tell you this, we can stand here for all eternity and I will never choose to go with you." He says, "You're in a dangerous profession, Captain. You face death every day. There'll be another time and I'll be waiting. Eventually you'll come into my matrix matrix, and you'll nourish me for a long, long time. She tells him, go back to hell, coward. And afterwards, she's discussing the encounter with one of her crew, and Chukate says, I can understand that. I can't help thinking about it. That alien, his matrix, he was like the spider that has to lure a fly into his web. And the captain says, do you think it's possible that each of the near-death experiences we've heard about are the result of an alien inhabitation?
Wow, man, that really, that one scene, that could be the whole thing. That could be an analogy for the real bottom of the rabbit hole.
And I explained my theory to somebody at work, and he was actually Islamic, very devout and Islamic. And when he heard that, he came to me one day and he told me about that episode, and I watched, and I'm like, wow. I think so I didn't see that episode and form my theory around it. It's like, no, I keep running across all this supporting evidence that I didn't even know about.
Synchronicities for you. So what about the music industry? I mean, we see a lot of themes that support your theory there, don't we?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the word music itself is derived from the muses of Greek mythology, which were goddesses or fates that inspire men to create music. And you have musical terms like hits, and beats, and a hook, a chorus. So we listen to the same songs that are our favorites over and over again, and we sing or chant the lyrics to the song like chants to a mantra. I mean, talk about a programming tool. I mean, the repetitive nature of today's pop music is a perfect medium in which to do this. I mean, we even have genres of music called trance music and trap music. The redundant beat and the hypnotic melody literally entrains our brain and makes us more receptive to the intended message. And don't get me wrong, I love music. It's probably my biggest passion in life. But, you got the Black Sabbath album, We've Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. And John Lennon was quoted as saying, I've sold my soul to the devil. And Bob Dylan said, I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end. He said that on 60 Minutes, by the way. I don't know if I'm a medium for some outside source. Whatever it is, frankly, I hope it's not what I think. Satan, that was Ozzy Osbourne said that. But, you have so many groups, have so many songs about the sun and the moon, and I can't go into them all, and you can check my website for more. But I want to kind of go into one of the deeper terms, and that's rock and roll. And, if we rock somebody, it's like, I'm going to rock your world. I mean, think of rock as a jarring thing, like you're hitting somebody or you're shaking them, right? And the word roll, you're going to roll somebody. I mean, that's associated with getting beat up or dying, right? Maybe getting killed. So you have the rock group Queen that chants, we will rock you. AC/DC, this song says, for those about to rock, we salute you. And they sing, heads will roll and rock tonight. For those about to rock, we salute you. We're just a battery for hire with a guitar fire ready and aimed at you. Pick up your balls and load up your cannon for a 21-gun salute. For those about to rock, fire, we salute you. I mean, you're talking about a cannon and a salute. I mean, you're talking about death. They're going to kill you. April Wine has a song called Roller, and they sing, she's a roller, a high roller baby. And then they sing the words bye, 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 bye over and over and over again. The Florida Georgia Line, which is country, they had a song with Luke Bryan. It was the #1 song. It's called This Is How We Roll. It says, this is how we roll. This is how we do. We're burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll. Yeah, this is how we roll. Bruce Springsteen wrote a #1 song for Manfred Mann's Earth Band called Blinded by the Light. And it's very cryptic, but it's very telling. And some of the lyrics are, with a boulder on my shoulder, feeling kind of older, I tripped the merry-go-round. With this unpleasing sneezing and wheezing, the calliope crashed to the ground. Some all-hot half-shot was heading for the hot spot. Snapping his fingers and clapping his hands. Save the buckshot, turn up the band. And the chorus says, he was blinded by the light, revved up like a deuce, another runner in the night, blinded by the light. And it goes back to a verse which says, some brimstone, baritone, anticyclone, rolling stone, preacher from the east. He says, dethrone the dictaphone, hit it in its funny bone, that's where they expect it least. Some new-mown chaperone was standing in the corner all alone, watching the young girls dance, and some fresh-sown moonstone was messing with his frozen zone to remind him of feeling a romance. They repeat the chorus, and then they say, little early Pearly came by in her curly whirly and asked me if I needed a ride. Well, I jumped up, turned around, spit in the air, fell on the ground, and asked him which was the way back home. He said, take a right at the light, keep going straight until night, then you're on your own. Now in Zanzibar, a shooting star was riding in a sidecar, humming a lunar tune. Yes, and the avatar said, blow the bar, but first remove the cookie jar. We're going to teach these boys to laugh too soon. And some kidnapped handicap was complaining he caught the clap from some mousetrap he bought last night. While he unsnapped his skull cap, and between his ears I saw a gap and figured he'd be all right. He was blinded by the light, cut loose by like a deuce, another runner in the night. And Mama always told me not to look into the sights of the sun. Oh, but Mama, that's where the fun is. I was blinded. You have Pink Floyd and The Dark Side of the Moon. It's just such an epic album. I think it's been on the record charts like, I don't know, 10, 20 years. I mean, so many weeks. But they have that album cover and it's like a laser light that's it's a prism and it's getting refracted into like all the different colors of the rainbow. But that album seems to recap our lives as it starts with a heartbeat and Speak to Me, and it leads to the song Breathe, which goes on to Time. And in the reprise of Breathe, they sing, far away across the field, the tolling of the iron bell calls the faithful to their knees to hear the softly spoken magic spells. And in Great Gig in the Sky, he says, I'm not afraid of dying. It ends with the two songs, Brain Damage and Eclipse, where they say, I'll see you on the dark side of the moon. And everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. And then, I mean, Pink Floyd, they're just really ripe with all kinds of goodies. But then they have this other song called Welcome to the Machine. And they say, welcome, my son, welcome to the machine. Where have you been? It's all right, and we know where you've been. You've been in the pipeline, filling in time. So welcome to the machine. Welcome, my son, welcome to the machine. What did you dream? It's all right, we told you what to dream. So there's a lot of information in the music if you listen closely.
Yeah, man, it's so much information, but all this is to show that this motif of the sun and the moon and are often linked with death and the idea of this tunnel. And so we're really building the case here that through all of culture, through religion, television, movies, music, it's all kind of speaking to our subconscious, I guess, to really drive home this idea that even talking about gold earlier, like gold is so worshipped, gold is good, and it's popular because of this desire to make the sun, the light, brightness, sunniness, make that all that positive. That's kind of the case we're making, that language, tradition, all this stuff is to kind of code this one piece of what could be our little human aquarium into the subconscious. It's pretty fascinating, and especially the music part, because you mentioned this earlier, but the themes in Stairway to Heaven and Hotel California, arguably two of the most famous rock songs ever, they follow the same pattern, the same motif that kind of could even show what happens at the moment we die, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually those could be the two best or biggest rock songs of all time. At least they're two of my favorites. Anyway, they both feature a lost or confused traveler, a path or a road, a lady shining a light to show the way, heaven or hell, wind, a spirit, and a piper or voices calling. Like in Stairway to Heaven, you have the lyrics, there's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. And it's whispered that soon, if we all call the tune, then the piper will lead us to reason. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. There's a head, your head is humming and it won't go. In case you don't know, the piper's calling you to join him. Dear lady, can't you hear the wind blow? And did you know your stairway lies on the whispering wind? And as we wind on down the road, our shadows taller than our soul, there walks a lady we all know who shines white light and wants to show how everything still turns to gold. And if you listen very hard, the tune will come to you at last. When all is one and one is all, yeah, to be a rock and not to roll. Hotel California, similarly, some lyrics of it is, on a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell, and I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Then she lit up a candle and she showed me the way. we are all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab at it with their stealing knives, but they just can't kill the beast. The last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. So the songs mention a traveler on a road who's accosted by a lady shining white light who wants to show the way, or a piper or voices calling you to join them in what could be heaven or hell. And this idea of a piper ties into a section which I call the trickster god, and we can talk about that at some point too. But
yeah, I definitely wanted to. This is pretty crazy, and I guess people listening might be like, well, what? Where's all this coming from? I guess are we talking about the idea that maybe these archons are posing as the muse and kind of working this imagery into the collective culture?
It's a very good question. I mean, a lot of these people that write these songs, they're some of the most intuitive people, and whether they're just tapping into a truth at a deeper level and coming through with the information in the songs. I mean, that's possible. Or maybe, and of course, a lot of them too are into drugs and so they get possessed. I know Santana's made some comments and some others have that they're just, when they're on stage, they become possessed and almost like something takes over their body. And so, I mean, I don't really know, but yeah, I think it's a good bet that the archons are invading and influencing people's minds.
Yeah, man. It's definitely a possibility. And you had mentioned Saturn, and I know I had planned to ask you about things that aren't on your website that are pieces of the puzzle that you might have not incorporated yet. And Saturn is super interesting to me. And I'm curious if there's, can you sum up a little bit of where you think Saturn would fit into this? What's your opinion on the Saturn connection, perhaps? Yeah,
I mean, to me, the obvious connection is the name Saturn and Satan. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have Saturnalia, which is a religion that was on December the 25th, and it was more of a pagan thing, and the Christians abolished it and turned it into Christmas. So it was called Saturnalia. But anyway, Satan has been represented as a satyr, a goat-like creature, which is also phonetically similar to Saturn. So the Roman Saturn was the Greek Cronus, which is where we get time, chronology in Cronus. Mm-hmm. Satan is Neptune. He carries a trident. It's like a 3-pronged pitch or tuning fork, and is the ringleader of this 3-ring circus here on Earth and the Lord of the Rings. But Saturn has these 3 discontinuous rings, which look like record grooves, and I think it plays a role in broadcasting the holographic universe. I mean, if you have a hologram, you have a light source, and you have a couple mirrors that will reflect that. Then you have to have some kind of pattern that to broad, So I think Saturn maybe has that kind of role, and there's lots of Saturn logos. You have the car Saturn, and it's kind of a stylized image of Saturn. And I think the Nike swoosh is a ring of Saturn. But anyway, at Saturn, you've got, and you get the symbol of the hexagram, the Star of David, which is Israel's flag, is Saturn. And then, but these Voyager and Cassini missions, they discovered a 3D hexagonal vortex at the North Pole of Saturn, which would be a cube in 4D or 5D. But these hexagonal vortices can be recreated artificially with somatic frequencies, so that there could be some sort of like Metatron's cube there. And then at the South Pole, you've got an eye vortex, which is very interesting. And, we were talking about cultures and traditions. And in Islam, you've got these worshipers, and I think they rotate around the black cube Kaaba stone at Mecca. And they've shown images of them rotating around that cube, and then they show it. The same thing is, it looks exactly like I think the North Pole or the South Pole of Saturn. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's maybe a form of witchcraft or a spell there even.
Damn, man. Well, we have been all over the map. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you laying out all these facts and details and the work that that you've done along with me in setting this up before we actually recorded. I mean, that's pretty impressive, and not a lot of guests really take that time and energy into doing that. So I do appreciate that. I've been really impressed by this information. It's a fascinating idea. You've done a great job of laying out all the examples and the anecdotes that are on your website that allude to this stuff. Everyone should go and check it out to get even more context. Would you like to give the people that website again, and maybe anything else you're working on before we go?
Yeah, it's trickedbythelight.com. It's past tense, trickedbythelight.com. And if you want to contact me with any information, if you got some stories or anecdotes or whatever, my email is waynejbush@gmail.com. That's WAYNE, the letter J, BUSH @gmail.com. And I still want to put up a section on Saturn. That's about the only thing that I can think of. Also, maybe there's a machine or something that's generating all this, and like the movie Tron and the Metatron's cube and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've pretty much got everything I want up there.
Awesome, man. Well, I had a great time. Thanks so much again for being willing to do the show. I'm sure you'll get some requests after this airs, at least I would hope so, and that seems to be the standard now with these lesser-known researchers I've been interviewing. But either way, keep doing what you do, man, and take care of yourself out there.
Thanks. I just want to mention that, it's the game of life. It's just a game, and games are fun and for our amusement. And, just try to relax and have fun with it and enjoy the ride. I mean, just remember any story, whether it's a play, a dream, or a movie or a game, it has to have drama and conflict to be interesting. So as the main character or star, we get to be the hero, and when we ultimately solve the puzzle and win the game. So, I mean, I really appreciate you having me on your podcast and let me share my information that I've just researched. So thanks, Greg.
You got it, man. And that is a good note to go on. So yeah, definitely keep at it. You are digging away at an area that not a lot of other people are, and it seems pretty damn important, the moment of death. So keep fighting the good fight.
Thanks, you too.
There we have it, folks. I loved it. We got way back out onto the ledge this time, and I've gotten a little flack for taking chances on these lesser-known guests, Outlaw Jimmy Jones for one, but hopefully after Gordon White and Joseph Farrell, you're willing to take another chance with me. And hopefully, even if you're not sold on the overarching idea, maybe some of the data points were interesting along the way. The Plus show is almost an extra 2 hours rather than just one. I kind of wanted to split it more evenly, but we do run on several networks, and it wouldn't really be right to double the length of the show when they're trying to kind of keep a schedule going. I'm also going to have a Plus-only show this month, a conversation with the actual guy running the gay escort service involved with the Franklin scandal. Not just a researcher or an author, but the madam himself. He went to jail for this thing, and he can tell you a little bit about blackmail. So maybe adding that to the pile will do something for you, as well as the THC music being available, the forum being there. And I did actually go up to LA this week to the SiriusXM skyscraper. Had to check in at the desk. My name was on the list. Had to have a security guard unlock the elevator to the 14th floor. A whole big to-do to get two guys on a microphone. But as intimidating as it was, as interesting as it was, I think I held my own. I think I did all right. I did a segment on the All Out show with Rude Jude, and I'm curious what you guys think, if anybody did hear it. One caller started saying that conspiracy theorists discredit themselves when they bring up rituals and sexual abuse of children, which was great because I had the Franklin scandal so fresh in my mind. I shut him down real quick, and there were some other great moments too, but I did get a decent push from that also. So lots of new Facebook friends and stuff. And I do have a copy of the audio, and I asked if I could share it with the Plus people, and I got the okay. So that will be there very soon also. And I do have more to say about it, but I'll just wait until then. Also, I guess I'll let you know, for anyone who's made it this far still listening, I have finally fully paid off this surprise trip I've been talking about. It's taken about every penny I have, and me and my lovely lady are really putting off life for another year just to be able to go. But I wanted to celebrate the freedom and do something I couldn't have done with the old 9 to 5. And I guess I'll just tell you guys, but I am going to Armenia for a tour of ancient sites on a small little private tour led by Graham Hancock. We're going to be checking out areas that are the focus of his new Fingerprints of the Gods sequel. Most people who are listening probably know his name and probably are familiar with that book. I'm very excited. I talked to the tour, and I am going to be able to film it all, cut it up, and make some great videos for the Plus people. And I'm a huge Graham Hancock fan, and this is one way to get him on THC a little bit. And we'll see if I can't persuade him over those 14 days to maybe do an interview with me once we return. But I have paid for it, and it should be happening in August. I'm very excited. Never been outside of the North American Union here. But I'm trying to create win-wins. Things that I can enjoy that also sweeten the deal for Plus people. And extras are good. But, if you like the show, I just need $5 and I will double your fun. 1 beer a month. It's a huge help. And I think it's a pretty fair deal, especially today. Tons of great stuff in 2 extra hours. We talked about the cosmic egg idea, the holographic universe, structures on the moon, the shard, how the moon could be a control center. for this whole operation, the history of sacrifice and sun and moon rituals, the clues we get from out-of-body experiencers, the idea that the Greys scan our memory to create the illusion of a few familiar faces at the moment of death to draw us towards that dark light, how beings could control a control system this big, how they could keep our souls in the moon's craters before they are needed by the sun's solar engine, the Merovingian bloodline and its possible connection to alien races or a merfolk race, the possible solutions, what you could do with this information, what does the moment of death even feel like, all that nebulous stuff. We also talked about maybe the black hole in the center of the Milky Way galaxy is the path out of the machine. Maybe the whole spiraling Milky Way is just a farm for meat batteries for these Archon overlords. Anyone who's seen Jupiter Ascending will know what I'm talking about. We also talked about the Tibetan Book of the Dead a little bit and how it jives with this. All that kind of good stuff. Wayne had such detailed answers prepared, and he was a good sport by sticking around with me until we got through it all. So if this was interesting to you at all, check out his work at trickedbythelight.com to see all the media examples he lays out in a more visual form. I'm also back from contacting the desert, which was great. It gets so hot out there in Joshua Tree, and I get sick of hearing the same ancient alien speculation from the same 5 guys, but luckily there were some other great presenters. Jim Mars, of course, he killed it with a 2-hour depopulation presentation talking about Jade Helm and a lot of other stuff. Hopefully I can get him on again to go over some of that for THC. Also, Richard Dolan killed it during his presentation, too. He's actually writing a new book on the history and chronology of false flags. I would love, love, love to do that, THC. I've tried to get him on the show in the past, but some of these guys, they just get so used to doing their 4 or 5 shows that they don't want to add a new one. But THC isn't going away, and once I get them on for one show, I think they'll usually see the value and are willing to come back. When listeners contact guests and say, hey, I heard you on THC, that was great, that helps too. But if you are a Richard Dolan fan, please put THC on his radar. I can only do so much sometimes. Hosts are always tracking down these guys, talking about how good their shows are. It's easy to say I have a lot of passionate listeners. I'm sure they've heard that before. It's another thing to experience it. But either way, I really like today's Weird Ass show, from the royal religions breakdown to the examination of out-of-body experiencer reports. But I guess I'm getting out of here. I am getting slightly behind with the 6th of June being the first episode of the month, but I promise you, as always, you will get those 5 and sometimes more. For now, I guess I've done my part. Your move, Archon controllers of the Sun, Moon, Death Matrix, and the human aquarium we call Earth. Your frickin' move.